So let's get started and let's make a React project over here, which is gonna be increment and decrement of a number. We're gonna have increment and decrement buttons over here. Also, we're gonna use Tailwind CSS. So when you click on this increment button, this is gonna increase the number, and when you're gonna click on the decrement button, this is gonna decrement the number or decrease the number. And this is some text over here, and we have used Tailwind CSS for adding the styling and making it very easy and quick and efficient and a modern looking UI. So now let's get started over here. I'm going to keep the output over here so it is easy for you to understand. So I have a folder over here which is application. Okay. The first thing first, what you're going to do is you're going to go onto this website which is installing Tailwind CSS with Create React app. Then look at the URL. Okay. And the first thing of what you have to do is firstly, you have to create the React app, right? For that, you need to do npx create React app. And since I have already created a folder with this application, I'm gonna do dot. So the React app is gonna be installed inside this. It's gonna install the node modules and stuff. Okay, so it's gonna take a bit of time. And let's go over here. So for the pre-built UI, we're gonna use prebuiltui.com. That is pre-built UI components. Okay, so let's go on over here and we can use a button over here, that is buttons, and we will use this kind of button with bottom border animation. Okay, that's a very simple one, and we're gonna add some classes to the, it's taking a bit of time. Okay, so until then what we should do is let's go over here, button with border, bottom border animation. If you look at the code, you can go onto the React, and we need to copy out this. Okay, we'll use this later, just that it's taking a bit of time to install it. I'm talking about stuff. Okay, so for now what we got to do is we got to go into the src folder, app.css, all the text. Let's run this app. Okay, let's run this app and pm start. Okay, npm start. If you look at the development server, you look at the local host, we have it over here, and we're gonna open another terminal to install stuff. Okay, if you need it. So firstly, let's set up the Tailwind CSS. Okay, so this step has been done. Now we need to proceed on to the CDMI project. We are already inside this folder. So we're gonna do some stuff over here, which is npm install -t, and we're gonna do Tailwind CSS @3. Okay, so we are installing it. Let's copy this out. npx send. Okay. Now we're gonna run npx tailwind CSS in it. We're gonna get a config file which we need to configure. Okay. So we've got this config file over here. Let's copy out this and let's paste this over here. Now let's copy out the tailwind directives to your CSS. So we're gonna open your index.css. Okay. We now need to open index.css. Now you can add it over here. Okay. Since this is the entry point of our project, we have pasted it over here. So everything is gonna be inherited eventually. Now, since npm run start is already running, we don't need to do that again. And I think we are done. Okay, we are done. Now let's remove all the things which we don't need. App.css, we don't need it at all. Let's clear this out. Let's look at it out. Okay. Now app.js. If you look at the entry point, which is index.css, it's fine, right? Let's save it and let's cut it out. So index.js, if you look at this, we are rendering the app component over here and app.js is over here. It's very simple. Now let's delete everything out. Let's delete everything out. We don't need anything. Okay? Since we have deleted everything, let's add a div, a very basic div. Okay, a very basic div. And let's render something over here. H1 hello world. Perfect, right? I'll just minimize it. Okay. I don't think we do need any other dependencies. It's a very simple project, so we don't need that. Okay. I delete this logo from here. We don't need that as well. And I think it's fine. Okay. So what we need to do is let's go on to the app.js. Let's get started. Okay. Let's get started. Hello world. We don't need that, right? Firstly, let's copy the component over here. src, I'm gonna make a folder which is components. And inside that, I'm gonna add a simple component which is button.js. Now I'm using ES snippets, so RAFC React snippets. Okay. So after doing RAFC, getting this boilerplate. Okay. So let's go on to this thing over here and look at this view. We have to have this component inside this. It's very simple. What you have to do is just take out this fragment. From this fragment, okay, from this fragment, copy everything out until this fragment. Copy this, come over here, and instead of this text, we're gonna use the fragments, and all the code is gonna be over here. So we are done with the button tag. We're gonna do some changes, but for now we are fine. Okay, this class name app. Okay, let's remove this class name. We are not using any CSS styling property, so we don't need that right now. Okay, so what do we need over here? H1. If you look at the output which we need to do, we need to have this H1 over here, right? A simple H1. So let's add a simple H1. Okay. What should be the text? The text should be the app counter. Now we need to have a para tag. Para tag should be a number. Let's keep it 0. Let's make everything static first. And we're going to need a button, increment and decrement. Okay. So we are done, right? We are done making out this simple level of code. But we need to add some styling over here. But let's add the styling at the last, or maybe let's add the button tag over here. We need the button tag. Or I will just complete the CSS, not CSS, the basic functionality, then I will use Tailwind CSS. So for it is gonna be easy for you to understand. Okay. So for here, what you're gonna do is I'm gonna instead of the 0, we need something dynamic, right? Let's go over here. Let's keep it down. And we're gonna use state over here. Constant, a constant count, comma set count. Look at this. What do use state? Okay. Over here, hit control and space. I'll explain the code to you. Okay, don't worry. So initially, we are using constant count set count is equal to use state of 0. That is the count value initially is gonna be 0, but we can change it with the help of set count. Okay. So we need to access this variable, right? Whatever the value is gonna be, we need to access that. What should be the value? Look at this. We are count. Copy this, paste it inside this. Cut and paste it. Okay. So we have the 0. If you change it over here, 5. This should be 5, right? Okay, this is 5. Don't worry about that. Let's make it 0 again. Or if we want to start it from 0, right? Now we need to add this functionalities to the buttons, right? When you click on this increment, this should increase. So we need to add a function that is on click method to it. And what is gonna happen when we're gonna click at it? It is gonna increment or trigger a function, that is increment handler. Okay, so copy all this on click and paste it for decrement as well. On click, and this is gonna be decrement handler, right? Since increment handler and decrement handler has not been introduced over here or declared over here, let's declare the function. Let's write constant increment handler. Okay. Now what you need to do is set the count constant. When you click on this button, just a second. When you click on this button, when you click on this button, the state of the count is initially 0, right? So constant increment handler that is going to be triggered with the help of the onClick function or your onClick method or function. What are we going to say? You're going to trigger this function. When you trigger this function over here, this arrow function with the help of this method, constant increment handler, you're going to use the set count to count plus 1. Initially, count was 0. So we're going to say count as 0 plus 1. That is, count is going to be 1. Okay, let's see. Boolean type. Okay. Constant increment handler. Something is wrong over here. Okay, wait a minute. Will replace all this with the help of a Tailwind CSS properties. Okay. Constant decrement handler. Okay. Constant decrement handler. So what it is gonna do, the function is gonna decrement the value. That is exactly what is happening. Okay. So when you click on this button, you're gonna use increment handler, which is gonna increment it. Right. So it is incrementing it. And now when you click on this, it is decrementing it. So when you look at this, the functionalities have been done properly. Now, and I got the error in between, right? That is part of coding. You need to get some errors, you need to walk around, and sometimes errors to get solved automatically, like you did, like it did, right? So that's figuring out things. If you're smart, you're gonna do it eventually, and that's the way you wanna learn, by making mistakes. Okay, so we have this button, but what do we need? We need this final output, right? We need this kind of UI UX. So for that, we need a very stylish button over here. Or before that, let's style our div over here. Let's make this flex. I'll add this properties flex column. The items are gonna be aligned vertically. Item center, 65 center, minimum height screen. The height of the screen should be like the minimum height we are having for the div, okay? And gap between the elements is gonna be 5, and background should be gray, and that is 800, and text is gonna be white. Now, if you look at this, if class name text column second index.css, I've imported it properly, right? So the issue is app.js. Okay, let's add the code over here first, and we'll have a look at it. Hello. For H1, we're gonna add last name is equals to text size is gonna be 3XL, and font is gonna be bold. Okay, we are not accessing those properties. Okay, for that we need to work around. I'll have a look at it. Don't worry about it. So over here, we have this button, right? We pasted the code over here, right? We're all this code for this button. What we're gonna do is we're gonna simply replace this button with the help of the button, which is the component, and name is gonna be done. Okay. And if you look at this, it is click me, click me, click me, right? So we need to work around stuff, right? So for that, what we need to do is we need to basically pass on this value, whatever value we have between this button tags as a children to the component. For that, we need to basically go inside this button, add some curly braces to it, and then we need to add on children. And next thing is gonna be the on-click functionality. Okay. Also need to add on-click functionality, right? So using the button tag. We look at this click me. It is showing click me over here. We don't want to show that. We want to show whatever the value has been passed from over there. It is very simple. Add children over here. The magic has happened. Increment and decrement, right? And over here, we have added on click, increment, and decrement, right? It's working fine for now. What we need to do right now is, okay, also we need to add the Tailwind CSS properties, right? It's not visible. For that to happen, we need to stop our server, I think. Let's stop the server with Control C, and then let's start it again. Let's start npm start. If you look at this, I think Tailwind CSS should be properly integrated, right? It has been properly integrated. And if you look at this, we don't have much issues over here. The only issue we have over here is the increment and the decrement is not working. So we need to work on this component, this line of code. And if you look at this, the button on click increment handler, which is incrementing it. Okay, so this is going to be passed as children over here. We look at this. We look at the code over here. We are using on click, but we haven't added that over here. For that to happen, we're going to add on click is equals to on click. Okay. Okay. And L should be small since we have passed this over here. Okay. On click has been passed, right? And we are using that over here, right? And children is the increment which has been passed as children, and we are rendering it. If you want 2 times increment, you can simply say children at this. That's gonna write increment and increment. Okay. But if we just need it for once, let's delete this. And I think the code is fine. Code is completely fine. We have done everything. And let's check this out. Refresh everything out. And when you click on the increment, it is gonna increment. And when you click on the decrement, it is gonna decrement. That's it. And we use useState and Tailwind CSS to make this very clean and simple looking modern UI for this counter. So that was it.